Long before it was a greeting card holiday, the sacred thread was a mechanism of alignment. It was a spiritual contract designed to impose order on the universe and synchronize the fates of those who held it. We currently view Raksha Bandhan as a purely familial celebration, a custom reserved for those who share a physical bloodline. While tying this thread to a brother's wrist is a gesture of familial affection, it represents a selective application of a much broader principle of universal security. The Sanskrit text in the Vedic manuscripts describes something more calculated. The ritual is framed as a strategic spiritual vow, where trust, or shraddha, is exchanged for a guaranteed return of protection. Historically, this exchange was a tool for crisis management. It was used to turn the tide of wars and provide a diplomatic escape when the gods themselves were physically outmatched. To see how this contract actually functions, we have to examine the 3 specific moments it rewrote history, and none of them involved a biological sibling. The first instance occurs on a celestial battlefield. The gods are being systematically dismantled by demonic forces. They have been pushed back to the final gates of heaven, and their defeat appears inevitable. This is when the first sacred thread is deployed. It is tied not by a sister, but by Indrani, the wife of Lord Indra. She creates a bond to safeguard her husband before his final stand. She does not look for a decorative bracelet. She uses raw, unspun cotton threads, charging the material with specific mantras to forge a physical anchor for her own protective devotion. The thread began as a shield for a warrior. It was a transactional vow of protection against external threats, establishing a bond based on survival rather than birth. The ritual then shifts into the realm of cosmic diplomacy. Lord Vishnu is missing from his throne. He is bound by a vow he cannot break, forced to serve as a doorkeeper in the underworld for his enemy, King Bali. Goddess Lakshmi is trapped by a technicality. Because Vishnu gave his word to Bali, no physical force can intervene to bring him home without violating the very laws of truth that Vishnu represents. Lakshmi bypasses the physical stalemate by using the law of the thread. She disguises herself, enters the underworld, and ties the Rakhi on King Bali's wrist. By accepting the thread, Bali is legally and spiritually forced into a new role. He must accept Lakshmi as his sister and grant her a boon, an obligation she uses to demand Vishnu's release. The thread functions as a tool of moral leverage. It creates an unbreakable obligation between enemies, allowing a sister by choice to override the commands of a king. Finally, the contract moves to a deeply intimate scale. Lord Krishna suffers a sudden, bleeding injury to his finger, a moment of physical vulnerability for a deity. Draupadi doesn't hesitate or look for a bandage. She immediately tears a strip from her own expensive silk sari to bind the wound. She destroys a piece of her own wealth to address his immediate pain. This isn't a strategic calculation. It is a moment of pure sacrifice, where one person's comfort is discarded to ensure another's safety. Krishna records this act as a standing debt. Because she gave a piece of herself to protect him, he is now spiritually bound to return that protection whenever she calls for it. The return on that debt arrives during the Cheer Haran. Draupadi has been dragged into a royal court to be publicly disrobed and humiliated. Her physical family and her legal protectors all remain silent. In this moment, biological and social bonds have completely collapsed, leaving her with no earthly defense. Only Krishna intervenes, and he does so because he is bound by the contract of that torn strip of silk. The small piece of fabric she gave him created a permanent link between their two fates. The finite piece of silk she sacrificed returns as an infinite stream. It is a physical manifestation of the spiritual law that a life protected must, in turn, protect the one who saved it. Whether Indrani providing a shield, Lakshmi engineering a rescue, or Draupadi binding a wound, the mechanic is the same. The thread is a physical record of a person's willingness to prioritize someone else's life over their own. This is the realization of ek pran, do dehi, one soul, two bodies. It occurs when two people merge their karmic paths so thoroughly that the survival of one becomes the absolute priority of the other. This redefines the festival. Raksha Bandhan is a technology for building these bonds, regardless of gender, social standing, or blood relation. When you sacrifice a piece of yourself to stand between someone else and their suffering, the universe formalizes that connection. It creates a bond lasting as long as the soul itself. Look for the people in your life who have truly earned that thread, and recognize them for who they truly are.